Hello Internet, I am RD Lady and welcome to the second part of the tutorial that shows how to extract textures and 3D models from Android games and apps. In the last video in part 1, I have shown how to extract 3D models and textures from Android games using Ninja Reaper through Nox, the Android emulator. So in the previous video I have demonstrated how to extract a very simple 3D model example. That simple model was all contained in one piece in one 3D model file. Now in this video I'm gonna show an example that is a little bit more complicated. This example consists of a composite 3D model. A model that is split into many parts. Each part of this model will be in a different file that will need to be extracted separately. So when I reach the part where I have to extract these multiple parts, import it in the 3D modeling software and then assemble it, I will slow down the video and I will explain step by step how I did this extraction and assembly process. Here are all the RIP files generated by Ninja Reaper, and here are all the texture files in DDS format. Now let's open Noesis. Just to remind a very critical thing, if it's the first time that you are opening Noesis, don't forget to copy the Noesis plugin from the Ninja Reaper folder into the Noesis plugin folder. Otherwise, you will not be able to see RIP files through Noesis. And here in Noesis, I will browse through all the RIP files until I find a model of interest that I want to extract. And in this case here, I would like to extract the model of a car. The problem is that the car model is split into many parts. Each part of the car is in a different file. So there is no single RIP file that contains the model of a complete car. So instead of extracting a single file as I shown in the previous video, this time we're gonna do a high throughput extraction. So we're gonna extract all the files at once. So we're gonna do this high throughput extraction and we're gonna convert all the files from RIP format to FBX format, which is a file format supported by most of the 3D modeling software and 3D animation software. And for doing this, we gotta go to the Tools menu and then click in Batch Process. Here as input extension, I'm gonna leave the RIP format. And here as output extension, we're gonna write FBX. FBX is a little better than OBJ because it comes with the texture files inserted and already applied to the model. So compared to an OBJ file, the FBX file can save some time during the importing process. And the applied textures will help us to identify all the parts of the model, so the assembly will be a little easier. And here in the output path, I'm gonna delete this subdirectory in the middle, so all the FBX files will be saved together in the same folder, together with the RIP files. It will just make things easier later for importing all the FBX files together into the 3D modeling software. And here, clicking in Folder Batch, we're gonna select where we want to save our FBX files that will be generated from the RIP files. In my case, I will select the same folder where are the input RIP files that I want to convert. And after that, Noesis will generate a list of conversion commands that will be executed. So there is one conversion command for each RIP file. And after that, we just have to click in Export. Now you can see that Noesis is running all those commands and it's printing a report in the screen. And these messages will stop once Noesis is done with all the conversions. And if everything worked fine, Noesis will print on the screen a message that says Batch Process Complete. So for each one of those RIP files, a new FBX file was generated. And these FBX files can be imported into any 3D modeling or animation software. Now, for importing all these FBX files at once, you're gonna need some kind of plugin for your 3D modeling software that enables the importing of multiple files at once. This type of plugins are usually called as batch import or batch export. In this case, here I'm showing an example for 3ds Max, where I'm downloading the plugin called Batch Export Import. So if Blender or Maya, for example, also don't have this capability of importing multiple files by default, then you have to look for a batch import plugin for your 3D modeling software. These plugins or scripts are usually named as batch import. So I'm gonna go here in the download page of this batch import plugin or script, and then I'm gonna right click on the download link and I'm gonna save the target to my desktop. And for some reason Windows tries to save this script as zip, but if we use this format, 3ds Max will not recognize this file as a script. So I'm gonna put here the original format of this file, mzp. If after you download this file, the system still tries to force to add zip to the file extension, you gotta go to the file and rename it again, removing the .zip suffix from the file name and leaving only the mzp extension again. Otherwise, 3ds Max will not find this file. Now let's open 3ds Max to install this plugin. To install this plugin, we gotta go to the menu Scripting and then we click in Run Script. And now we just have to select that mzp file that we have just downloaded. After that, we have to click here in Install, and then we're gonna see this message here saying that the installation was successful. And now to enable this plugin, we gotta go to Customize and then in Customize User Interface. And here we gotta go to the Toolbars tab. And here in the Category drop-down menu, I'm gonna select the Batch Exporter Importer, which is the plugin that we have just installed. And now I'm gonna click in this plugin and I'm gonna drag it and drop it into the Quick Access toolbar. In the moment that we do this, a little button will show up in the Quick Access toolbar. This button will be used to access the Batch Importer Exporter plugin. Here, for some reason, this button is transparent, but when I mouse over it, you can see the name of the plugin in the screen. So now let's click in this button to open the Batch Exporter Importer. And this is the window of the Batch Importer. So to select the input files that will be imported, we have to click here in Browse Files. So we just have to go to the folder where are all the FBX files that were exported using Noesis, and then we just have to press Ctrl A at the same time to select all the files, and then we just have to click in Open. And here are all the selected files to be imported, and here I will enable import options so I can select some parameters for the importing process. The most important part here in the import options is to disable the lights and the global ambient color. Now we just have to click in OK and the import process will begin. So here are all the FBX files imported at once. As you can see, all the scene from the game was imported all together, not only my object of interest. So I'll have to do some cleanup before I start to work on my model of interest. And for cleaning up the files that I don't want, I will just select them and press delete. So once I'm done with this cleaning, I'll have only the model of interest, which is the car that I want to assemble and to use in my 3D modeling or 3D animation project. Now that only the parts of my car model, my model of interest, remained, I will select all of them and use the scale tool to increase this model size, just to make the assemble process a little easier. So these are basically all the parts of the car model that I want to assemble. So in order to decrease a little bit this mess, I will start to separate each part of the car before I can start to work on this model. You can see that these parts are not in a correct scaling. They're not in a proportional scaling. For example, the tires of the car are bigger than the doors. So we're gonna have to scale these parts proportionally later. I will also give a little rotation here to make the models get aligned to my workspace. And now, giving a look at these parts of the car, I can see much better where are the doors of the car, where are the tires, where is the car body. So now this model is getting a little bit easier to assemble once I have organized all its parts. So now I'm gonna start to move, rescale, and fit all the parts of the car together. I will accelerate this video a little bit because this assembly process took me like 1 hour more or less to get done. Some parts of the model are gonna have multiple copies that are identical, so I will delete these repetitive parts that are not necessary. Usually, when we import FBX files, the texture comes together already applied to the model. But for some reason, this car model became black. It looks like the texture got corrupted somehow. To solve this problem, we gotta go here in the material editor, and then I'm gonna take one of these standard materials and I'm gonna drag and drop it into my material editor view. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with the bitmap, but when I drop the bitmap in my workspace here, it will ask me to choose a texture file. And then I just have to go to the folder where are the RIP files and the texture files extracted by Ninja Reaper. And then I'm gonna select the texture that belongs to the car. After that, I have to click in this bitmap connector and drag this connector to the diffuse color connector. So having the model where we want to apply the texture selected, we're gonna go and click twice in the material that we have created in order to select it. And let's click in this button to apply the texture to the selected object. And then we can go ahead and apply the same texture to the other parts of the car as well, just by clicking and selecting those parts and pressing the button again to apply the textures to these other parts of the car. And now that we apply this texture, we can see the parts of the car a little better. I can see that there are multiple copies of the car body, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete them as well, just leaving one copy of the car body. Now that the correct texture is applied, it's a little easier to see and identify the car parts, so I'm gonna continue the assembly process. I don't know if you noticed, but when I was in the game, this car was red. And now in the texture, it is white. And there is no extracted texture with red color for this car. This means that the color processing of the cars in that game in particular is not based on the texture file. So the color seems to be determined by another post-processing after adding the textures to the models. So the original color of the car is not in the texture. To solve this problem later, once I'm done with the assembly, I'm gonna show how to create a customized material to choose a different color for this model. When the model is symmetrical, for example, all the tires of this car are exactly the same model, and the left side is like a perfect mirror image of the right side, I can make the process of fitting the parts of the car much easier just by cloning the tires of one side, making a mirror image model of it, and then placing this mirror image model in the left side. So I don't need to do the placement of each one of the tires manually. And for doing this, I have placed 2 of the tires in the right side of the car correctly, and now I'm gonna create a clone of these tires. And after that, I'm gonna invert the orientation of these clones by using the mirror tool. And now I just need to place these clones of the tires into the opposite side of the car in order to make a symmetric model. And now to assign a different color to our car, let's go again to the material editor and let's go to the settings of the material that we have created before, and let's change the diffuse and the ambient color. So we just have to click here in this box where is the gray color, the default color, and change it to another color. In my case, I will select some kind of red to make it similar to the color that it was in the game. And here in the specular level, we can set how much light will be reflected by this model, or how much shiny the model will be. So to give a more metallic or shiny effect, we can increase this number. I also did not like the textures of the windshield, so we can change that by clicking and selecting the windshield model, and then clicking here in this button named Pick Material from Object, and then clicking in the model again. By doing this, the material editor will import that material that belongs to the windshield. In my case, I'll just delete the bitmap texture for the windshield, and this will make it more clean already, like a dark glass. You can also change the windshield opacity, for example, to leave it more transparent. For now, I think I'll leave it like this. If after rendering the model is still white with the original texture color, the solution that I found is to go back to the material editor and remove that connector that we created between the bitmap texture and our material. And this should solve the problem. And this is the final result after extracting a composite 3D model from an Android game using Ninja Reaper through the Nox emulator. I hope this video has been useful for the people that were having trouble to assemble all these models. If it was, please don't forget to give a like and to subscribe to this channel to receive new tutorials. And don't forget to follow us in the social media, in Facebook and Twitter. I'll see you next time. Bye bye!